What did it cost to feed 6 people breakfast in 1953? 11 cents. I believe that figure because I was 11 years old that year and I ate it most mornings. 1 egg between the lot of us, yesterday's bread, and a tin of grease sitting beside the burner that never once got emptied out. My name is Ruth Callahan. I am 74, and somebody has handed me a list of 25 breakfasts that nobody supposedly makes anymore. Let me be straight with you before we begin, because I have read what people write underneath lists like this. A man of 82 says he eats most of them regularly and craves them. A woman said flatly that these have not been forgotten by everyone. Both of them are right, and I will not pretend otherwise for 25 items. Most of this is still being made. It has simply stopped being made where anyone can see it. Do one thing for me first, and it costs you nothing. Tell me in the comments what state you woke up in as a child and what was on the stove. I read every single one. Carry one number with you as we go. A loaf ran 14 cents and 52. Eggs about 60 cents the dozen by 56, and the grease cost nothing at all because it was yesterday's dinner still working. Nearly everything here leans on that tin, counting down from 25. Number 25, coffee soup. Torn stale bread in a bowl, hot black coffee poured over the top, a little cream and sugar if the house ran to it. Scandinavian families through Minnesota and the Dakotas ate this every morning and thought nothing of it. Why does it work? Because it is a bread pudding that takes 90 seconds and needs no oven, and it put caffeine into the parents and calories into the children out of the same pot. When the packaged pastries reached those farm towns, it was gone inside one generation. Number 24, hominy and eggs. Big soft kernels out of a tin, dropped into hot fat and left until the edges brown, then eggs broken over and turned through. 15 cents a tin, about $2 now. But why did it go? Hominy is one of the very few things here that lost its audience rather than its price, and I have never worked out why, because it is cheap and filling, and it is on the table in 6 minutes. Number 23. Bread and bacon grease. A slice cut thick, a spoon of the warm drippings smeared across it, salt shaken over, eaten standing up, satchel already on your shoulder, 2 cents. My father took a second one out the door, folded in wax paper every day of his working life. That tin left the stovetops of this country almost overnight in the 70s, and a great deal of flavor left with it. Number 22, rice and milk. Cold rice from last night, cold milk poured over, sugar scattered on top. No pan, no heat, no waiting. 30 seconds, and not one thing to wash afterwards. But this was the cold cereal of America long before there was a box on any shelf with a cartoon on the front, and the rice actually has some texture to it, which is more than I can say for what took its place. Number 21, corned beef hash, tipped out of the tin, pressed flat into a hot skillet, and then left completely alone until the underside goes dark and brittle, then turned over in slabs. A man wrote in about this, and he is right about it. 20 cents a tin then, near 4 now. But the mistake nearly everybody makes is stirring the pan, and if you stir it, all you have is warm mince with no crust anywhere. Number 20, potato cakes, yesterday's mash, an egg and a spoon of flour worked through, patted into rounds, and dropped into hot grease. Potatoes were 4 cents the pound. Children argued over whichever one had caught blackest at the edge. Nobody ever planned these. They happened because there was potato left over, and that one sentence covers about a third of this entire list. Nothing here was ever designed. It accumulated. Number 19, Johnny cakes. Coarse meal, salt, boiling water poured over it, a spoonful of fat, patted flat and cooked on a hot greased pan until the outside crackles and the inside stays soft as custard, under a nickel for a plateful in 53. Why did they last so long? Because you could make them out of a sack and a kettle and nothing else on earth. The method came down from native cooking, and it ran 300 years, barely altered, and then a box of pancake mix finished it in about 15. Number 18, oatmeal with lard. Not brown sugar, not maple. A spoon of lard and a good pinch of salt beaten through, which makes a bowl of oats sit heavy enough to hold a working man to noon. 19 cents a canister in 55, but children did not enjoy it, and I am not going to tell you otherwise. They finished it anyway, because their mother stayed at that stove with her arms folded until the bowl was empty. Number 17, egg in a hole. Punch a circle out of a slice with the rim of a glass. Drop the slice in butter. Crack the egg into the gap. The little disc fries alongside and gets used for mopping, so not even the scrap is wasted. 3 cents, and it used 1 egg and 1 slice. There is a different name for it in every state of this country, and the reason it exists is simple. A child who will refuse an egg and refuse toast will eat both without a word if they arrive together, looking like a trick. Number 16, tomato gravy. Drippings and flour worked to a roux, then a tin of tomatoes crushed into it and cooked down until it goes thick and sharp. Over biscuits, or over rice, or over plain bread on the days there were no biscuits. Under 15 cents, and it fed 8 people sitting down. But in the Ozarks, nobody bothered writing it down, because everybody already knew it. That is precisely how a recipe disappears, and it happens quietly, in the ordinary way, every single day. Number 15, hoe cakes, meal, water, salt, on a greased skillet, and truly nothing else. They take their name from the field blade they were first cooked on, and they carry more history than a breakfast should have to. A sack of meal ran them for a month, with cane syrup or sorghum poured over, but the history in them is heavier than the breakfast is. Families carried north in the Great Migration, and the hoe cake stayed behind in the South. A child who had eaten them every morning of her life in Mississippi found herself in a Detroit kitchen, being handed toast, and the thread broke quietly, with nobody marking the day it went. Number 14, fried cornmeal and molasses. Yesterday's mush, chilled overnight and cut in fingers, fried until both faces are hard, blackstrap poured over. 15 cents the jar in 56. This is what fueled the cotton mills and the rail yards and the shift that started before daylight, and it came in under a nickel a plate, which is why it lasted as long as it did. Molasses has slipped out of the American cupboard almost unnoticed and been replaced with a corn syrup that has maple printed on the label, and that costs more and does less. If you are getting something out of this, press subscribe. I put one of these out every week, and the ones that land are usually the ones that turn up the week you happen to need them, which I cannot arrange unless you are actually here. And if you have only just found me, I am Ruth, and this is my kitchen in Ohio. Number 13, bacon grease toast with jelly. Toast, a smear of warm drippings, and a spoon of grape jelly set on top of it while the fat is still soft, but it is the temperature that makes it. Salt and sweet arriving together, cold jelly sinking down into hot grease. It costs nothing extra because both of those things were already sitting on the counter waiting. Of everything here, this is the one people describe most vividly to me, and I think that is because it is the taste of one particular kitchen rather than a recipe anybody wrote out. Number 12, scrapple. Pork trimmings and liver bound with meal, set into a loaf and left cold overnight, then cut in thick fingers and fried hard so the outside goes to glass while the middle stays soft. 20 cents a pound in 55, which undercut bacon and went further on the plate as well. In Pennsylvania, this was not breakfast, it was who you were, but it could not survive a national supermarket because it kept badly and it belonged to one place, and when the last independent butchers shut their doors, the recipes shut with them. Number 11, fried bread dough. On baking day, the risen dough got pinched into balls, flattened between the palms, and dropped into hot fat, where they swelled up gold and hollow. Sugar over, or honey, it cost nothing at all, because the dough was already made and the fat was already hot. The only price was standing there and waiting, and children were willing to pay that one. They sell it at a state fair now for $5 a piece. Number 10. Hog brains and eggs. On the morning of a hog killing, and there is no delicate way to say this, the brains went into the pan, scrambled through the eggs. A man wrote in about his aunt cooking exactly this at midday on killing day, with the whole family working, and he remembered it warmly. Free, obviously, and there was a lot of it on that one day of the year. It has all but vanished now, and I am not going to stand here and pretend I want it back. But the principle underneath it built every other thing on this list. Nothing was thrown away, not one part of anything. Number 9. Cornmeal mush. Meal stirred into salted boiling water and worked slowly until a spoon will stand up in it on its own. A 5-pound sack was 20 cents, and it ran a family 2 weeks of mornings. But the reason it sits this high is a woman who wrote in to say she was making it at that exact moment, that she would chill it, slice it, fry it in the morning, and eat it with honey and scrambled eggs. 35 people appeared underneath her comment to argue about the correct method, the correct pan, and whether honey belongs anywhere near it. That is not a forgotten dish. That is a live argument that has been running for 70 years. Number 8, clabber and cornbread. Raw milk left standing in a warm kitchen until it thickened and turned tangy, then poured over crumbled cold cornbread in a glass. Across the rural South, this was simply breakfast, and it cost nothing whatsoever because the milk was going to turn whether you wanted it to or not. Pasteurization ended it, and nobody set out to. The thing that made clabber happen was gone before the bottle ever reached the house, and a tradition centuries deep was closed by a rule that was on balance the correct rule. Number 7, grits with red-eye gravy. Grits worked slow in salted water until they go creamy. Then a slice of country ham, fried hard in iron, and a cup of black coffee tipped into that scorching pan to lift everything off the bottom. Thin, salty, bitter, poured over the top. Ham was 45 cents the pound in 54, but one slice carried a whole skillet. You could draw a map of where this was eaten, and it would cover the Carolina Piedmont, the low country of Georgia, and a band across Alabama. It was tied to particular ground and particular families, and once those families took factory work up in Ohio and Michigan, the gravy simply had nowhere to go. Number 6, water gravy and biscuits. No milk for the sawmill, no ham for the red-eye. So this, flour browned hard and fat, let down with water, salt, pepper, over biscuits, and that is genuinely everything. The whole art is browning that flour long enough that it turns nutty and covers for the milk and the meat that are not there. A woman who could make this taste of something was performing a quiet act of alchemy at 6 in the morning with 4 ingredients in the dark with nobody watching and nobody thanking her for it. Number 5, buttermilk biscuits and sorghum. The biscuit is the real achievement. Flour, lard, buttermilk, salt, soda, brought together fast and touched as little as you can stand, cut out with an upturned glass and into an oven hot enough to frighten you. A woman who could turn out a proper biscuit had standing in her town the way an athlete does now. A 25-pound sack of flour was $1.50, and it would keep a household in biscuits for a month. Then refrigerated dough arrived in a cardboard tube in the 60s, and 200 years of mother teaching daughter ended inside about 10. Number 4, biscuits and pot liquor. The dark, salty inch left behind when greens come out of the pot, kept in a jar by the stove and warmed through the next morning, poured over split biscuits, greens out of the garden, biscuits out of flour and fat, so the whole breakfast came to roughly a penny a head. But look at what got thrown out with it. It went down the drain in most kitchens by the 70s because somebody decided it looked poor, and looking poor became a worse problem than being hungry. Number 3, sawmill gravy and biscuits. 2 spoons of fat, 2 of flour, worked until it turns the color of a paper sack, then milking slowly with the whisk going and a great deal of black pepper. Under a dime for the whole table, every morning, for years on end. Here is the part nobody said out loud. The pepper is not seasoning. The speckle makes it look as though there is sausage in the pan when there is not one scrap, and every woman making it knew that, and not one of them mentioned it. Number 2, fried egg sandwich. 1 egg in the grease until the edge goes brown and lacy and the yolk still moves. Between 2 slices, salt, pepper, folded in paper, under a dime fed everybody. Men ate them standing on the bus, with the paper coming apart in their hands and the yolk running into the newsprint. It cost $8 at a brunch counter now, and it has not been improved by one single thing in 70 years. Number 1, milk toast. Toast buttered lightly, sat in a bowl with warm milk poured over, and the smallest pinch of salt and sugar. That is the whole of it. This is what your mother made when you were ill, or when the money was finished, or when there was honestly nothing else in the house, and it went down easy on a raw throat. 2 women wrote in about it without being asked, one of them 85 and one 89. The first remembered her mother floating a pat of butter on the top because it went smoother on a sore throat. The second wrote 1 line and nothing else at all. She still loves it, and she is 89 years old. That is the 25, and the honest count is that 9 of them are still made in this kitchen. So here is what I think this list is actually about. And it is not thrift. Not one of these is difficult. Not one needs a skill you could not learn in an afternoon. What every single one of them needs is somebody awake before you were, standing in a cold kitchen in the dark, deciding you were not leaving the house empty. That is the ingredient that has actually gone, and you cannot buy it back. It did not go because we got poorer, because we did not get poorer. It went because everybody in the house started leaving at a different hour of the morning, and nobody was left in the kitchen to stand there. I have written all 25 out properly, with the price and the year it was cooked, and today's price beside it, in the collection linked below this video. Now tell me what was on your stove before school, and who was standing over it. I read every single one. Next week I am doing the suppers those same women put down at 6 in the evening, which is a longer list and a cheaper one. 11 cents, 6 people, 1953. I have spent a fortnight trying to make that sum come out, and I was sitting at the table when she did it. I am Ruth Callahan, and I still cannot work out how.